When I experience an obstacle or challenge, I'm going to move past it. I'm going to shatter that glass ceiling and I'm going to keep going.
It hurts to smash a glass ceiling.
Wow, we literally have to be superheroes to walk through this life.
While I might have been the first, I pray that I'm not the last.
Boo.
Hello, how are you?
Hot.
Oh, well, I'm in Cleveland, in Lake Erie, near Lake Erie.
What's the temperature right there?
It's
right
not
now?
quite, it's like in the 80s, I think. Maybe not too bad. I can't look.
Okay.
I turned off my phone, so there's no notifications, but it hasn't
Good
been
for
bad.
you. Good for you. Yeah,
Mid-80s.
We're gonna hit 111, I think, tomorrow. So
You
it
know
is
what?
warm.
My selfish side says, ha, the people in the Northwest who know me now know what it feels like to move to Phoenix. I didn't get enough sympathy. People were like, oh, Janine, it's not going to be that hot. And I just think the universe is playing a joke on my friends.
Yeah, I think it probably is. I'll take that.
It's just
so
like now
all that
you
to say,
know.
I'm trying not to wipe my forehead, but I'm glistening anyway. Yeah, we'll make it work. Hey, here we are. It's Monday. Yeah,
Yes, here we are.
today.
I know, and I'm so excited. You know, I'm on this journey for this summer, taking my kid to various camps, and I got the opportunity to go through Asheville and actually meet Julie. And so it was such great timing. I knew she was coming on the show, and she ended up being in Asheville. We had this fantastic dinner, and I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation. I was so excited. I called you from the restaurant. I'm like, Joshua, I know it's really loud in here, but I'm with Julie.
Like, sure, I can hear not much, but this is really cool. It's going to be a lot of fun. No, it was.
Yeah.
We're really thrilled. We're really thrilled.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm excited for Sandra Christensen next week, too. So she's a bariatric nurse practitioner, and I think she's going to have some really interesting things about her story and her journey to being somebody who helps people with weight loss and really their image and managing their diet and exercise and nutrition. And she's going to be a wealth of knowledge. So I'm excited to have her too. It's going to be, you know, I just love hearing everybody's journey to how they came to be so passionate about what they do. So it'll be fun. Yeah,
it'll be a lot of fun. We have quite the list of guests coming up over the rest of the summer. Has summer even started? Yeah, I guess it started 7 days ago.
Yes.
Boy, it feels like it. So anyway, it's going to be pretty amazing. And this was all on me. I wasn't able to drop Lisa Vann's episode on Thursday, so it will be coming out Thursday. And we had some audio. Some troubles with the audio that we had to clean up. And so I had to loop in our editors on that one. So, and FYI, that'll be coming out Thursday.
Well, Joshua, I have to ask you, is that a Christmas pencil?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. I'll get rid of it. This is my regular pen.
No, just
out of season.
It is not even July yet. It's not even Christmas in July. I can tell you have children who play on your desk.
I do. And I have pink ribbon from Easter. So this is
you go.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Let's see. Logistically speaking, we have been doing this for about a year and a half. We have had the audio podcast out that entire time, shifting to live streams as of 3.5 months ago. Just about every single Thursday, we have the audio from one of the live streams drop as a podcast to keep that succession going. And so we have both now. You can find us on all of the audio podcast platforms from SoundCloud to iTunes. And of course, after each of these live streams has been done, it's being recorded. And so it's available for review or re-listen, if you will, usually a couple hours afterward. And
can we shout out to Nick Silva from
let's do that.
Because he's really helped us, and he's been actually delightful and wonderful partner for us. Yeah. So thank you, Nick.
Nick, we're going to bring you on here at one point so everybody can see your wonderful face.
Yeah, so everyone can see how cute you are too. Exactly. I just didn't even get I didn't even know Nick. Like, we never met him in person. You know, all this stuff is done online and COVID. But I had a chance to have dinner with him in Seattle maybe a month ago, and it was just so much fun to meet him in person. I love meeting people in person now. I'm glad that COVID thing is getting resolved and we're getting all vaccinated and things like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. We have some cool things. We're not going to drop exactly what they are, but we've got some really cool things coming up within the next year with regard to the podcast. And this is a community that we're building. And really, at the end of the day, the intention is to build a community of guests who know each other, who are in the fight together, a community of listeners who can join into that discussion. And gosh, that's one of the main reasons why we went to live stream. And this was Nick pitched this to us. He said, you want your viewers to be able to engage and comment and talk and be part of this whole thing. And we thought, well, that's a no-brainer because that's why we're here in the first place. So yeah, this is a community that we're building, and we have some fun things coming up with regard to that community. But without further ado, Janine, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes. So Julie Hruska she has a website called Powerful Leaders, and she's a coach. She's a high performance coach, and she does amazing things. She has kind of a journey that she takes people through. And as you know, fellow coaches, we have the opportunity to talk about some of the things that we do and where our worlds intersect in terms of what we believe in. And I just found this happy Mary with her, that she really knows how to help people be their best selves. And most of that is through living that way. And so I'm really excited for our listeners to meet her. She's really what I would say a little bit unexpected. I started following her on LinkedIn, and she always has these really interesting posts every day. And so I get my daily dose of Julie. And I just reached out to her and said, hey, will you be on the show? And she was gracious enough to say yes.
Yeah.
So here she is.
Absolutely wonderful. Let's bring her on. Go for it, Nick.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Early afternoon. Hey.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell everybody where you live, where you are, what's going on.
I am in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to scoot back because I'm really close.
Yeah.
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. I just got back from New York yesterday, and it's beautiful, sunny here. Awesome day. I just got back from walking my dog, and it's yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Shiba Inu. She's a little Japanese hunting dog. So she's also the Doge dog. So that's what everyone calls her now. But I had her before all of that happened.
Yay, fellow dog lover. Woo-hoo. Yep. That's
Absolutely.
Really great. So, hey, why don't we kick off with how you describe what you do? Tell our listeners what it is that when someone says, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that question?
Yeah, I'm a certified high performance coach. And so what I help people do is examine the areas of their career, relationships, health, and finance to determine where they're functioning at their optimal levels and where they're not. And so with my one-on-one coaching, that's what I do. I also do executive coaching for high performance, which is creating high performance cultures. And it's very similar, looking at the whole person and the whole culture. It's not just about work. And with millennials especially, we're seeing this new workforce come in that wants more engagement. They want more than just a job. They want a community. They want a culture. And so part of what I'm doing now is shifting into more corporate coaching and helping people create that high performance culture where people are functioning at their optimal levels in all areas of their lives, not just their career.
Wow. And how did you get started? Tell me a little bit more about that journey. Like, you didn't come out of the birth canal knowing how to do that.
Yeah. So interesting enough, I feel like my story is almost a metamorphosis of like a modern day woman. I was not raised to be an entrepreneur. I was not raised to go out on my own and have my own business. I was actually raised in a very conservative family. And my job, so to speak, was to grow up, get married, have kids, quit working, raise my kids. That was what I was kind of indoctrinated with as a young person, as a young woman. And so I went that path. I did what I thought I was supposed to do, only to find out it wasn't my path at all. And I had a lot of shifting and challenges that I had to go through to become who I am today. And all of that along the journey added up to get me where I am. So really, I had a lot of undoing. I had originally was an elementary school teacher. I got married at 20. I started having kids at 24. And so I quit work like I was supposed to, like I was raised to do. And I had 3 kids by the time I was 31. And it really wasn't my path. But my oldest son is severely dyslexic and ADHD, which we've talked about, Janine.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole different kind of challenge in parenting. And so what I found with that was that he needed to go to a school that could really help meet his needs. And it was quite expensive. So it was a good opportunity for me to go back to work. And in that time, I went back to get my master's degree because I'd been out of the workforce for about a decade. And in my master's program, I went out to Colorado Springs, Colorado for a brain-based gender differences, that's a mouthful, conference with Michael Gurian, and Dr. Amen was out there. And at that conference, my entire life changed. For the first time in almost a decade, people were calling me Julie. They were asking my opinion. I felt like I mattered again. And it was really hard to face because you have that like awakening moment and it's like, wow, this is amazing. I've been sleepwalking through my life. But what people don't talk about is when you have new awareness, all the challenges it takes to transform and shift your life. And so I had that awakening moment. And from there, I started doing the really hard inner work to see what patterns were healthy, which ones weren't. My marriage had a lot of really unhealthy patterns, and I had stayed far too long. It was creating damage in my life and the lives of my children. And so I had to go through that challenging process of getting a divorce, starting over with my kids. I ended up with full custody of my oldest son and primary of my younger 2. And suddenly, I was on this journey that I didn't expect to be on. So one day, my youngest, and I know I keep talking, cut in if you want.
No, we're listening. This is your story. We love it.
One day, Aaron, my youngest son, fell asleep. I was teaching kindergarten at the time. He fell asleep on the dirty floor. The janitors hadn't been in there. And I looked down and I was like, I'm raising 22 people's kids and I'm not raising my own. Like, I just had that. So the first aha moment was, wow, you're sleepwalking through your life. Like, you've completely given up your identity. The second aha moment was, I can't have this career path and raise my kids the way I want to. Because having primary custody, having the kids Sunday through Friday, and having my oldest son full time, I needed to be more present for them. And at the time, I found a lot of empowerment in Baptiste Power Yoga. So I thought, okay, I have this great plan, you know, like we often do. I have this great plan. I'm going to share yoga with the world. I'm going to empower people through yoga. And quickly I found out after quitting my job to teach yoga full time that that wasn't quite the path. Yoga was a tool, an amazing tool to help people on their path deal with anxiety, deal with stress, deal with depression, deal with a lot of disempowering beliefs and limiting beliefs. But there was more. And so the way I got into high performance coaching is that when I started my yoga LLC, I realized I had no idea how to run a business. Never taken a business class in my life. I'm a single mom entrepreneur, and there's no one around to help me. It's like,
You did it.
Right? Yeah. And so that's how I ended up in high performance coaching. I looked online, a nice Google search. I'm like, how can I figure out how to run a business? And I found High Performance Academy with Brendan Burchard, who's now my mentor and has trained me several times to be a certified high performance coach. I went through High Performance Academy and I'm like, oh, this is the good stuff, right? Clarity, courage, energy, productivity, psychology mastery, like overcoming your limiting beliefs. This is amazing. This is what I'm meant to do. And so that's the longer version of how I became a high performance coach. And high performance, I think, gives people the wrong idea. I think people hear high performance and they think like, oh, you're going to be like die hard in your business. But it's really a holistic view. It's looking at each area of your life and optimizing it and becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah. And how do they come together, right? And in the meantime, you were able to be at home and parent your kids the way and have that flexibility, right?
Yeah.
So you were living that high performance.
Yes. You know, I saw the vision of the life that I wanted for me and my children after, you know, doing all of that work and gaining clarity. And I saw the vision. I wasn't sure how it was going to happen. And so it's been quite a journey.
Julie, can I ask a lot of questions, but I'm just going to use one for right now. So you talked about standing in the classroom, your son is on the floor and you're thinking, this is not what I want. Was there anything earlier that was pivotal that really started to change that path? Or was that the beginning of the whole thing?
What really shifted my path was in Colorado Springs when I realized I'd been sleepwalking through my life.
And where was that in the timeline?
Yeah, that was in 2010. So that was 11 years ago. It was 7 years ago so 11 years ago, I woke up. I realized I needed to change my life. I asked for a divorce. My former husband said no. Which is a whole nother story. But that was 11 years ago. And I got officially divorced 7 years ago. So it was 7 years ago when I'm like, I've got this, you know, I have a full-time teaching job. I teach at the same school my youngest goes to. My older kids' schools are right next door. Like, this is going to work out. Yeah. But also teaching children, every time their parents would come in for conferences, I found I was coaching them equally as much. And that's like my passion was there. And then when I started practicing yoga, I found a lot of empowerment there. And I felt like that's what the world needed. And it still does. You know, the world needs to be grounded. There's so much going on. We have so much distraction. There's so many opportunities, but it can also lead to this like analysis paralysis where we just get stuck. And so,
Julie, I wanted to also call out something in your story that I don't think I hear very often is that you describe, 11 years ago, having this wake up call where you just knew in that moment. But it wasn't really until 7 years ago that you got a divorce, that you were looking at your career, you were making, really hard and fast decisions. That 4-year prep time of mental shift, that's what it takes, is that one limiting belief after another has to be examined and discussed in your head and decided upon. And I think people think it's some epiphany where you just wake up and go, okay, and you throw all the house of cards. And I don't hear that you did that.
No, I mean, I did make some dramatic choices. It was about 3 weeks after Colorado that I asked for a divorce. I didn't get one.
But it started the process.
Yeah. But it was a very painful process. And I'm not an advocate for that. I think that you should try to make things work when you can. My situation was a little different because there was some emotional abuse happening. But for that, people think they have the wake-up call, but oftentimes they have the wake-up call and they shrink back because it's scary. It's scary to look at your life and go, oh my gosh, like I'm not on the right path. And you have to generate the courage. And it's one of the things I love about coaching is that people get the courage to say, hey, there's something that's not adding up. There's something that's not working. And oftentimes with my clients, they've achieved great success. They have achieved, everything on paper that they should. They have the great family, the house, the cars, some of them vacation homes, right? They have a great position, CEO, CFO, but there's something missing.
Mhm.
And when we dive in, we uncover it pretty quickly. And then it's about creating that clarity of, okay, now that you're clear on what you don't want, let's envision what you do want. And then from there, it's really about cultivating courage, about getting up each day and saying, hey, here's the life I want, and I have to take these steps to get there. So it's not easy. And I think that's a misperception in our instantaneous society where we can put something in the microwave, or we can get online and we can find whatever we want. Life change doesn't happen like that. So I have people and they're like, hey, I want to hire you. And they want to work with me for like 2 weeks. Like, hey, I can help you gain clarity right away. We'll gain clarity in your first session.
Courage piece.
But what people don't realize is all of those underlayers and those limiting beliefs.
Peeling all that back.
I had a lot of limiting beliefs based on being a woman and what was possible for me as a woman, because I was raised, and there's nothing wrong with that choice to stay home if you want to stay home. But that was indoctrinated, so every part of me was raised that way. And when I stepped beyond that, suddenly I'm the black sheep, right? Suddenly, my family, when I told them I was getting a divorce, did not take it well. There was not support. There was not, there was a lot of second guessing me, questioning me. When I quit my salaried job to teach yoga, people thought I was insane. Like my friends, my family, they're like, she has lost it. But
so Julie, you're talking about some people who looked to a certain degree askance at what you were doing. Who supported you during this process, during that, particularly these 4 years, these transition years? Who supported you? Who helped you along, helped you navigate the craziness?
I didn't have a lot of support. I really generated a lot of it internally. I had a good girlfriend that was also my neighbor, and she was the fun part of it. She was always like there, whatever you need. So she was wonderful. And my yoga community was pivotal. I had a yoga mentor when I went through training named JP McClellan. And he saw it in me before I saw it in myself. The first time I practiced at his studio, he's like, wow, you have an amazing practice. He's like, I hope you'll come back. I feel like you belong here. And it was really what I needed, because I didn't have a tribe. I didn't have people. And so that community was amazing, because I gained a lot of empowerment there. And at first it was physical empowerment. Power yoga is tough. It's in a heated room. Like when I taught in a studio that it was 105 degrees. So it's a heated room. It's very physically challenging, but in that physical challenge comes the mental challenge. And so through the physical practice of yoga, I built the mental strength.
But I also want to make a comment around, was it part of the lack of support you were feeling because it seemed like you had the idyllic life, you had a husband that was accomplished, right? That everyone else would be like, are you crazy to give up this guy? Like on paper, he just seems like the perfect guy. And then are you crazy to give up a job, a secure job as a teacher that's structured, that has all these benefits to it? So you were kind of giving up what everyone else looks at as the norm or the ideal.
Yeah.
And taking a risk.
Yeah, I took a big risk. And, people judge, because people like to give their opinions. But when you're not in the situation, you don't know what someone's going through. And there's a lot of shame associated with abusive relationships and the things that happen. And you don't share it. You rarely come out and say, hey, I feel terrible about myself, and here's what's happening. And, here's what's happening. I'm receiving this external feedback that's really painful and damaging to me. I didn't really realize the extent of it until I went to a lawyer to ask for divorce.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have grounds for domestic abuse. And I'm like, ooh, like, hold up. Like,
Right. What?
Because I never felt like a victim and I never wanted to be one. It's also why I still, and this is probably, more of the way I was raised, I really took a long time to tell people I was a single mother because I didn't want people to think I was a victim. I think there's this mentality out there that when people talk about their struggles, that they're like plain victim. And we really need to reverse that because we all go through struggles.
Right.
And when we share them, we can empower others with the way that we overcome our struggles. But if everyone hides it and we're ashamed of what we go through, then how are we going to create an impact? And how are we going to have a positive influence on other people's lives?
Right. Yeah. Well, I can see there's a comment from April that she said your story mirrors some similarities in her own. And I think that that's exactly it, that we have to talk about it and hold space for people without having any judgment about whether it's right or wrong, and trust that you'll find your way to the right path. It's just holding space for people to do that examination without an opinion in what direction they should go. Everyone will find their way.
Right. And that's what I love about being a coach. It's because, I'm a safe place for clients to be who they are without judgment, whatever they come to the table with,
Right.
I discovered a long time ago that we have no right to judge people. We don't know what they're going through. And Mother Teresa, I think, said it, if you're busy judging people, you can't love them. And the world needs acceptance. The world needs to know that whatever they're going through, they have someone there to help them.
Yeah, powerful. Well, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit because we had a conversation. We had so many great discussions over dinner that day in Asheville, but one of the ones that lingered with me is how grounded you are in your values and knowing how you want to show up in your business. And we talked a little bit about your niche is helping male leaders be better at work and sometimes better partners for the women they work with, right? I mean, and how do you navigate those men who are really coming to you for coaching and support and self-reflection and shifts versus someone who's coming to you because, hey, you're out there, you're positive, you're attractive, and you're single and your kids are grown and maybe there's space for me, right?
It's been the greatest challenge of my career that I didn't expect. Not being surrounded by powerful women who could kind of help me maneuver the landscape. I was very naive in thinking that, knowing that I have something amazing to offer the world and that everyone would come to me for the right reasons. And what I found is 95% of the incoming is personal in nature. And
95%.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Sorry, 95%?
95%. Yeah, I went through a phase earlier a few months ago where I'd get 200 to 500 messages a day in my LinkedIn inbox. And most of them were personal in nature. And so taking time, because I don't have a team yet, I do it all myself. I record my own videos, I coach, I answer all my own messages, I post, I answer all the comments, like I do it all myself. And to go through all of that, it's challenging because I am a single mother. My daughter's going to NYU. I'm working really hard to build my business, to support my children. And it's really hard when people don't respect that and people look at me like I'm there for their entertainment.
Mhm. Yeah, especially when you have so much to offer. If they only knew, right? If they were coming at you for the services that you are really great at and trained to do.
Yeah, and so I think it's something we don't talk about. And, I work with right now all men. It's not that I wouldn't work with women. It's that that's the demographic that I tend to work with. I think it goes back to being a daddy's girl and spending so much time with my dad as a child and
Mhm.
all the sports. And I connect with men on a different level.
Mhm.
And I have amazing clients, absolutely amazing clients. I feel like
Mhm.
the best clients in the world because I've discovered a process,
Mhm.
right? Like, originally, I would get on the phone with anyone who wanted to call. I would meet with anyone because I was so excited to expand my business. And what I found was, people weren't always there for the right intentions. And so I had to make it a little more challenging, which means putting up some barriers and some boundaries that I didn't expect to have to put up.
Well, let's talk about it because I think women are challenged by putting up boundaries. Like, how do you continue to want to be attractive, want to wear nice clothes, be who you are? And this is the same thing in conflict. I mean, every conflict there's some yes and some no. And I just admire you for being able to say, this is who I am in the world, but that doesn't give you license to cross any of my yeses or cross any of my no's or assume that you're going to get any of my yeses.
Yeah, that's what's
Talk about that.
interesting. And here's where I'm really grateful for my upbringing, because I did learn to set boundaries and I have a really strong morals. And so my morals and my ethics are always my North Star to guide me through. But keeping boundaries and creating the boundaries, it is very challenging because you don't necessarily know why a person is trying to reach out to you. So when you discover that, it can be really hard. The thing that I go back to always with setting boundaries is, what is my purpose? Why am I here? I'm here to empower people. And sometimes empowering people means calling them out on their BS, right? And so it's like, hey, that's not why I'm here. If you want to, I have had people straight up say to me, like, I'm not interested at all in your services. Like, they just reach out. I'm not interested, but I'm interested in you as a person. And I appreciate that transparency. Tell me what you're all about. That's what I need. Please don't waste my time pretending you want to hire me and whatnot. So the boundaries go back to clarity on who I am and what I'm doing in the world, and knowing that I will connect with the right people.
I think there's also an element of self-trust, right? Is that when you're so grounded in your values and kind of what you're about and are certain what you have to offer, like you're certain in your self-worth, it's easier to kind of put limits around what you're willing to do and not willing to do.
What's blown me away about it all is that it's 2021, right? But in the last 7 years, all of the things that I used to see in movies have happened to me, right? like I've had people follow me to my hotel rooms at conferences. I've had, there are so many things, but I come back to, like, I'm looking for people to open the door to a boardroom, not a bedroom. Like, that's not why I'm here. I wear dresses and heels because I like them. I feel lovely and powerful in them. And I don't want to change that. I'm not going to change who I am because other people don't have their own healthy boundaries, right? Like, I'm committed to who I am and how I'm showing up in the world and what I'm all about. And so it's
Yay,
interesting.
Julie!
It's interesting,
Wow.
though. It's something, again, I'm surprised that it's so alive with all of the advances women have had. There's still so many things and so many obstacles in our way.
So Janine, I'm going to steal one of your questions, if I may.
Okay, yes.
And Julie, you touched on this a little bit in that your understanding of the landscape, your understanding of what challenges you'll face as you go forward has changed. And so you're having these conflicts, some little ones or big ones. How has your approach to navigating conflict changed over time? Let's go back to when you went to Colorado,
Right.
at that, just as a point in time to now, over that time, how has that changed when you engage in conflict, whatever the conflict might be?
Yeah,
how's that changed? How's that changed?
Conflict to me is like red flags. I'm like, conflict. I'm such a pacifist and peacekeeper that I always try to smooth things over. And what I've learned is setting boundaries. If they create conflict, that's not about you. That's about the other person. So I've had to grow a tougher skin. I am a people pleaser by nature. I want everyone to be happy, but not at, not at my expense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that I handle conflict now, I really believe it's about effective communication. It's about making sure that people are clear about your intentions and you're clear about theirs, and you go from there. So if you keep the lines of communication open, most people will respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I do want to shout out to men. I'm not male bashing at all here. I love my clients. I love men. There's so many good men. I'm raising 2 of them myself. It's not, we're kind of on that side, but I would like to shift a little bit too about the female side. Women are brutal to each other. I have had women on LinkedIn, influencers, like send me messages criticizing my videos, criticizing my appearance, criticizing like the way I live my life. And I'm like, wait a second. If we're about, moving forward and empowering one another, we've got to stop fighting with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that also I don't think we talk about enough. If we want as women to further causes and see more women in leadership and do things like that, we have to support one another.
Yeah, lift
There's
each
an
other up.
abundance. We're not competing, right? We're together. We're moving forward together. And so that's been another thing that really comes up that I'm surprised about is the lack of camaraderie.
Why do you think it's not there? Why do you think those things happen?
That we still as women are in a male-dominated society. Like high performance coaching, for example, the male high performance coaches tend to get more business. They tend to do better. When I talk to people like are really thriving financially through their coaching business, the majority of them are men. And so I feel like women feel like to be a woman, they have to be a bit harder, a bit more of am I allowed to swear? A bit more of a bitch, right? In the world, they feel like they have to, the only way to set boundaries is to be like overly assertive. And I disagree with that. I think that you can be kind and still be successful. And why I think women are so catty, and not all women, again, I don't like generalizations against men or women. But I think one of the reasons women are so catty is because they feel like it's a scarcity mindset. And hey, we're already in a male-dominated society. There's only room for a few women, right? There's only room for a few. And if you're succeeding, then you might be my competition. So I'm not supporting you. I'm going to go join the boys club.
So I have a little bit of a different slant, maybe. Maybe we're saying the same thing, but I look at it when people make comments like that and they're judging your appearance or testing your boundaries or trying to push you a little bit. sometimes I think that scarcity mindset that you're describing is lack of self-compassion on their part, that if they had more compassion for themselves, they could easily hold space for other people being individual and different from them, and not compete with them.
Right.
I find that hurt people, right?
Absolutely.
And if we could create space for those hurting people, not excuse their bad behavior. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that bad behavior gets the slide over because you're hurting. I'm saying that every time you find yourself a little judgmental of someone else, or every time you find yourself making a comment in your head saying what's hurting in me,
Yeah.
is how we start to have mindfulness about what we're contributing to the world and what we're putting out there, so that you, Julie, don't have to receive that from me because I'm in check, right?
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important. A few things there: holding space for people and their journey, and recognizing, like, it's one of the 4 agreements, right? Like, don't take things personally. I've learned you asked me like how I've learned to handle conflict. I've learned to not take things as personally, and to hold space for people's journey, and to recognize a lot of times, they're talking from a place of pain or a place of scarcity, or they're projecting onto you all of the things that have happened to them in the past.
Yep. I also want to address another comment in the comment section, because I just love that people are participating and have questions for you. How can someone that's over 60 that wants to continue to be vital in the workforce stay confident when consistently overlooked because of ageism? And I think that's a powerful question, because the boomers are definitely on the cusp of being challenged by that. And I'm sure that you coach people through and maybe there's a limiting belief in there, right? I mean,
there can be. You have to know, is it actually ageism, right? And same with, is it actually sexism, right? Is it actually misogyny? You have to look at, is that the real issue? And it goes back to, clients I work with that feel like they're being discriminated against about race, right? Is that the actual issue? If it's the issue, address it. It's important to address it. But I always tell my clients, don't get caught up in what everyone else is seeing, thinking, the way they're acting. Be so good they can't ignore you. Like, be so amazing at your job that you begin to get that attention from everyone. They see that you're thriving. And when you're thriving and you're so amazing, it doesn't matter what gender you are, what color you are, how old you are. When you are so good they can't ignore you, like, you will get promoted. I
think part of being so good is that whole openness, willing to learn new things. I'm even challenged that with myself. Joshua knows this with this podcast. I'm like, I'm not a techie. I call Nick, I don't know what I'm doing. And there's a part of me that just says, I just don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do this. But then, that whole thinking is, okay, well, then how can you be relevant in the world if you don't want to learn the little things about being techie? And if you're going to close yourself off, then you're right, you're irrelevant. I have to keep telling myself that.
It's true. I've worked with people and they don't want to change. They don't want to shift. They like things the way they're doing them. And we have to adapt. We have to pivot. If we're not willing to adapt and pivot, then we're not going to be successful. And so I don't know what the situation is there, but I would say, go back to, like, do your job so well that everyone sees you, that you command their attention, that you're top of mind, that they want to work with you because you're creating that energy around you, right? That draws people to you.
Yes.
When you do that, it doesn't matter what you think people are thinking about you. Like, when you're so good they can't ignore you, there you are.
Julie, what would you say if you could have coffee with yourself when you were 18 or 17, or, right after high school, about to go into college? What is something that you would tell yourself, knowing all that you know now, your perspectives now, your maturity now?
Yeah, this hits me. I think own who you are without apology. Like, step into the world, be brave. You will attract the right people, the right energy, the right tribe. My daughter is headed to New York for college, and I've thought a lot about this. Like, what wisdom do I want to give her? On her 18th birthday, I wrote 18 pieces of wisdom, and I shared that out to the world, because after I wrote it for her, I'm like, no, these are like tenets that everyone can live by. But own who you are without apology is my number one. Like, you are amazing. Each person was created, to live and fulfill a purpose. I truly believe that. So tap into it, like, gain clarity on who you are, how you want to relate to others, what you want to create in the world, and then go for it. Don't listen to the noise. I've had to block it out. To be successful, I have had to stop looking at the other coaches that are successful and unsuccessful, had to stop looking at the people that are judging, and just tunnel vision. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm about. And this is how I'm going to show up in the world. And it will work or it won't work, but at least I will have been true to myself.
Wow. Yep. And, I think that we just heard your answer to the question of what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
I also want to give a little shout out. Lori Battle in the comment section said, always deliver more than you promise. And wow, like, we all have something that guides us. And I just love that you took the time to think about what do I need to know at Sydney's age that will help her be successful. And when I look at comments like that in the comments in the comment section around people really being guided by an internal voice that says, I know what I need to do here. And listening to it. And that's really what you're doing. That's like what you've been doing, right?
Yeah. And it's amazing, because at the time I didn't know I was doing it. And when I started diving into the realm of personal development and professional development, I was like, oh, now there are like names to all of these things. I didn't know I was facing limiting beliefs. I just knew I had beliefs that I adopted earlier in life that I had to confront and break through to achieve success. So it's amazing when we're on this journey, what we discover. I am so proud of my daughter. I wish, talking about going back, I wish that someone would have given me permission. And that's the other thing I would say to my younger self. Like, give yourself permission to go after what you want. Give yourself permission to be amazing. Give yourself permission to follow your heart and create that life that you've always wanted. And it's that permission I didn't think I had. I felt I had to do things the way my parents wanted me to, and then the way my former husband wanted me to. And the truth is, I wasn't listening to myself, and there was such a heavy cost for that. And I'm so grateful now that I've given myself permission to be my best. And that would be something I would wish for every single person listening right now. Like, really own who you are without apology and give yourself permission to shine.
Yeah. So the universe spoke to you and you're finally like grabbing it, right?
Yeah.
And wow, it's powerful when you do.
It feels amazing. And to see my daughter without any of the BS that I was raised with, like, she'll see it. Of course she will. But I do believe that our society is moving in the right direction. And it's amazing to see her without all of the BS that I carried with me, right? And the world is her oyster. Anything is possible. And she feels that. And to see it, like, she was going around New York. We just got back. She was going around New York like a pro. She found all her classes, all the buildings. It was like she lived there forever. And we live in little Asheville, North Carolina, in this big little bubble. But because she feels empowered,
Mhm.
she's going to do amazing things.
Yeah, how exciting.
It is really exciting.
You know, the other thing is they tell you that you're an accumulation of the 4 generations before you. And so when I think about who our parents were, you know, and the things that they believed then that kind of shaped us, your parents who shaped you,
Yeah.
and the mindfulness and the kind of self-examination that's almost required as a parent to decide what you're going to carry forward as part of your values and ethics and who you are, and what you're going to change because it didn't work for you.
Right.
I just think that's really powerful. It's saying that we have the potential to learn at any age to do things differently and better.
Yeah.
And I hear that in you is like, let me hold on to the things that are great.
Right.
And
discard the rest.
And discard the rest and do it differently for my children. Like, let's just not just blindly just transfer what we learn to the next generation.
That's what, unfortunately, I think so many people do with their parenting, with their careers. We go through the motions, and you know, when you stop and you confront it, and that's what I do as a coach. I'm like, wait, stop. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And when you take the time to be reflective, that's where you can change the patterns, right? That's when you can wake up and shift the things that you don't want to pass on. You know, why are you yelling at your child right now? Well, my dad yelled at me. Well, that doesn't matter. Like, you choose, right? And like, stop that, break the patterns. And the same in the career place, right? Like, the way that women have been treated in the past, so what? Let it go, right? Like, we can't do anything about that. But what we can do now is we can be more supportive of all men and all women. We can choose to be kinder and more amazing and more supportive. And that's up to us. It's about waking up each and every day intentional about who we are and how we're showing up in the world.
And healing our hurts.
Yes, healing our hurts. You have to do that. And that's something, you know, there's a fine line between coaching and psychology. And sometimes I see things in clients that they have to go to a psychologist for and deal with some deeper wounds. But overall, we all have limiting beliefs. We all have pain. We have to stop projecting that onto people and heal ourselves. And when we heal ourselves, we're more empowered to help others heal and help support others and encourage them on their paths.
Beautifully said.
Wow.
Yeah. Julie, you're doing some really interesting work, and I'm enamored with how you're going about what you're doing and how you are empowering people. And I'm inspired. I'm just flat out, I'm just inspired with who you are. I want to know for myself, but I know our listeners and our viewers will be interested to find this as well. What are some rhythms and resources that you have in place daily, weekly, that support your life, that support you continually learning more and performing?
I'm always, when I walk my dog without my kids, because during COVID, we've had a lot of time together, but I always am listening to audiobooks, you know, to take myself to the next level. When I realized a lot of my clients had limiting beliefs, I did continuing education. It's actually continuing medical education because it's psychology based. I have a minor in psychology. Because I wanted to learn more. So I'm always looking at where's an area of growth for me. I believe you never stop learning. And physical, I'm really intentional about what I eat and exercising regularly, which was very challenging during the pandemic. But now as places are starting to open, like, I love the community of group exercise. So I like to go to a yoga studio. Shout out to Hot Yoga Asheville. My yoga home, I love them. But that's really important, you know. People think about, again, high performance as achieving success in their career, but you have to set up the circumstances to support that. You have to eat healthy and exercise and sleep well, which I'm always working on doing better. But also giving yourself time to reset. I love to travel travel to me is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Wow.
I love to go out into the world and connect with people because it enhances who I am as a person. It gives me a broader perspective. It gives me more empathy. And it also gives me a chance to reset and get out of the four corners of my office and see the world.
Right on.
Wow. I love that thought about travel is it's not it's not a luxury. It's
people,
how you stay open to the world.
Yeah, people have said that a lot to me because in creating a life you love, I of course encourage people to dream big. And part of my big dreams is international travel. I love to travel. And people, again, judgment, like, oh, it must be nice that you do that. I'm like, no, it's a choice, right? Like when I was a teacher, an elementary school teacher earning very little money, I still took my kids to Europe. And why did I do that? Because it was important to me. It was one of the things that I valued. When you know your values, you can make anything work. You just have to be intentional about it. So yeah, I like to poke holes in all of those excuses that people put out there. Like, it must be nice. Like, it must be nice to live a life intentionally and make good choices. Yes. Yes, it is nice. It's wonderful.
I love it. That's good.
There's one comment I do want to make that fascinates me about you is that I love your energy. I think we had so much fun when we got together. But one of the things that I'm challenged by is to have a lot of energy and still have a quiet mind. Like, I can't imagine being like so meditative and reflective. Like, yoga just seems intimidating to me because I can't quiet my mind that much. And I love that you're energetic in one way and yet can have this deep meditative practice in another. Do you have any recommendations or thoughts? Because I can't possibly be the only person who feels that way. I'm sure there's listeners who feel that way too. Any thoughts about that?
It's not necessarily yoga. It's any practice that allows you to kind of block out the noise and draw inward. So I find walking out in nature to be very meditative without your phone and earbuds though, right? Like when you choose an environment, some people find it just sitting in quietly. And we think, you have to have these grand practices, but really it's about clarity of what works for you. When do you feel calm? And creating time for that. Creating boundaries again on your schedule and creating time to prioritize your reset. For me, I found very quickly, suddenly all of these people were reaching out to me and they were big deals, like Fortune 50 CEOs and professional athletes. And I had all these people and I was like, woo, so many opportunities. What am I going to do? And I had to come back in and be like, okay, focus. Clarity, courage, commitment. Those are my three. Like, get clear each and every day about who you are, how you're showing up in the world, and what you want to create. And then courage, like courageously stepping forward one step at a time, right? Each day toward your goals and commitment to that. And so being grounded to me is probably the most important part of who I am and what I do, because it always brings me back to my purpose, my why.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow. Julie, this has been a real treat.
Thank you, Joshua. And thank you, Janine. It's been amazing. It went so fast. I'm like, wait a second. We have so much more to talk about.
Yes.
We do.
Well, Joshua always has his closing question. So we have one more big one for you.
Yeah. And I'm really interested to hear what you're going to say to this, but we send you the questions ahead of time, no less. What are you most hopeful about with regard to women in, I'm just going to pull back and say, positions of influence?
Yeah. What I'm most hopeful about for people in positions of influence is what I see shifting. I see more community. I see more focus on culture, like I was talking about, creating high performance cultures. I see some trends happening that are really, really positive in the world of people coming together and looking forward with a cohesive vision and a purpose. And I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited for people like my daughter who have been raised in an empowering way to go out and change the world. Like, I see parenting as such a privilege and an honor, but also like a big responsibility. And I feel like the coming generations are getting more empowerment than my generation did and previous generations. So I'm really excited to see what's possible when people don't have all the limiting beliefs that some of us have.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's inspiring.
Julie, I want to thank you so much, because from the moment I reached out to you and said, hey, would you be a guest on the show? You've just been so warm and open, and you really walk the walk. And I've felt that just in all of our interactions. And I so appreciate you saying yes. I mean,
yeah.
I knew it was going to be a fabulous hour with you, and I'm just glad that everyone got a little treat and sample of what we talked about at dinner in Asheville. And I look forward to next year Asheville's trip. And
and thank you so much for inviting me on. This is one of the things that's just means the world to me, as being a guest on your show and other people's podcasts, because I feel like it's so important and such an opportunity to connect with more people. And one of my goals is to empower people to become the best version of themselves. And so hopefully part of my story, or something that each listener heard today, they'll grab onto and take that forward with them.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being part of the live cast today.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. We had a lot of great comments. You really engaged people, and I'm so appreciative. So thank you, Julie.
Julie, stay on. We will chit chat just a little bit after this.
Okay.
But Janine, you and I, let's talk about how cool Julie is here and talk about things that are upcoming.
Okay.
So, Julie, thank you very much, and we'll chat in just a moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Good pick.
Yes, I'm telling you, we went to dinner. She picked this cute place. I don't know Asheville. So she picked this cute place. We sat in the window. We talked. My husband was just like, oh my gosh, she's so much fun. And I just really enjoyed her, because she's just so authentic, and so she's what you want to be when you're just really true to yourself. And I think that takes a lot of hard work to be that open and authentic everywhere you go.
I want to center on that. I think it does take a lot of hard work, and I don't think there's anybody for whom it doesn't. To get to that place where you're having that level of impact and navigating some pretty intense challenges at times, and continuing to have that impact. And as both of you centered on, starting with the impact that you want with your family, with your friends, with your extended family, to your clients, and having that holistic approach takes a lot of hard work, and starting with your negative beliefs. So it doesn't come easy. Yeah.
I love that she listens to the positive voices of the universe, and limiting beliefs are this cycle that's in your head, and she kind of tapped into, in her advice to her daughter, what are those positive messages too? Why can't we make them louder?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
So we all have some message that's going on in our head, and we can choose to grab the positive ones, or we can let the negative ones just roll around in our head. And I loved that about her.
Yeah. That's making me think for the rest of the day. So here we go. Yay.
Yeah. So Sandra Christensen next week.
Yeah.
And Lisa Van is dropping on the audio.
Thursday.
He was fabulous. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll see everybody next Monday.
Wonderful. Thanks, Janine.
Thanks. It was fun.